In Transit today takes a look at the price of a new car. Lack of inventory and an increase in demand is driving new car prices up here in Canada. It will now cost you on average, get a load of this. I want you to guess just for a second. Let me leave you in suspense. Guess right now as you are driving on the Metropolitan or the Décarie or Highway 20 or Highway 15. Guess how much it costs, the average price for a new car in this country. Have you guessed? Correct answer, second quarter in this country, $66,000 to get behind the wheel of a new car in this country. Let's take a look behind the numbers and find out why we're seeing such an increase. Benjamin Wenger's on the line, Senior Performance Manager with Dealer Inspire and the co-founder of Autos Consultants. Ben, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Elias. Thank you so much for having me on again.
So let me get your reaction first things first. Q2 numbers are out. New car in Canada, $66,000. What's behind that figure?
Well, it's a much bigger number than I was expecting, Elias. I thought really the new car average price was around $45,000 to $50,000. I have to suspect that fleet sales have pushed that number up. So big pickup trucks, which are really popular vehicles in Canada and are bought by private individuals as well as companies, are helping to inflate that number. But the real reason why the number is so high is because of what the consumer demand is for. And that's been for basically medium-sized SUVs. And the small car and the medium-sized car, they're much less popular. A lot of manufacturers are canceling production on those cars because it's not what people want. People want ground clearance. People want all-wheel drive. People want space for their family. And the manufacturers are obliging them and charging them as a result.
So let's talk a bit about that and what the market is offering, right? I remember, and it felt like it wasn't too long ago, that there were a lot of options on the market at like $15,000. Like at $50,000, you could get an entry-level vehicle. I'm thinking of like the Yaris's and Nissan Versas of the world, right? And It feels like that market has gone up in smoke. Are there cheap options anymore on the market in this country?
Okay, so let's go through all your questions there one by one. So first off, yes, there's still a few cheap cars out there. The cheapest car in Canada right now, brand new, is the Mitsubishi Mirage, and it's got a starting price of about $15,000. After that, the next cheapest new car in Canada is the Kia Rio, and that's just under $20,000 starting price. But I guarantee you, any of your listeners right now that are in their cars or in their offices looking out the window, they're not seeing too many Mitsubishi Mirages because just because it's the cheapest item out there does not mean that it's the product that's satisfying the market's demand.
Yeah.
So what's going on in the market? What are people buying? I use the example of the Honda Fit to explain this. So the Honda Fit was a subcompact car sold in Canada from 2007 to 2020, and it used to start around $15,000, $16,000. The Honda Fit has a sister vehicle, which is called the HR-V, which is a small or subcompact SUV, and they share everything. They share the same engine, transmission, seating configuration, etc. And the demand in the market was not there for the Fit. So every year the Fit sales were going down and the HR-V sales were going up, and the HR-V was about $7,000, $8,000 more. Because like I said, consumers are looking for more features in their new vehicles, so they want cars with ground clearance. They want cars with all-wheel drive. They want cars that they perceive have more cargo space or are safer. And so people are gravitating more towards this. People are just taking out bigger loans, financing over longer periods of time. You know, at a $300 a month payment versus a $350 a month payment to get everything that you want, people are biting the bullet and taking on those higher payments.
So it's so interesting, Ben, you know, as you were talking, I sort of knew this, but I wanted to double check and confirm it. I looked up the Mitsubishi Mirage, right? It's the 3-cylinder engine vehicle on the market. It doesn't even have 4 cylinders, right? It is the bare bones at $15,000. Then you mentioned, right, the next lowest price car is still over $20,000. Interesting what you mentioned about the Fit and the HR-V and where the market is at. Let's talk about that. SUV. I want to get in the door with an SUV that's at a decent level, let's say with features and the like. We're now seeing huge numbers there.
So look, everybody who's buying a new car, they have expectations for what this car is supposed to come with. So I'll give you another example. 20 years ago, the Honda Civic was the best-selling passenger car in Canada. Mm-hmm. So in 2003, that car brand new was about $17,000. And you were not getting power windows, power door locks, air conditioning, or an automatic transmission. So if you were going to tell someone in 2023 that they were going to get a car without that stuff, on top of that, it might not have a backup camera, the safety suite, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, people would say, no, there's no way I'm going to buy a new car in 2023 that doesn't have the technology and the safety features that I'm looking for. So as a result, a brand new Civic today would be about $29,000 to start. So it's up, $12,000 from where it was 20 years ago.
So what does a consumer do right now? Like, what's the strategy here to trying to save money in a market where prices have never been higher?
Well, the problem is the best strategy is to buy a secondhand car. Mm-hmm. But because the demand for a new car has been so high and the supply has been so low, that has driven up the demand and thus the price on the secondhand cars.
What's the situation there? Well, when you say it's up, what do we know about numbers? How much does it cost now for a used car in this country?
I don't have the average used car price in Canada, and of course that depends on what it is that somebody's looking for. If they're looking for a full-size 1500 pickup truck, it could be $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, or a luxury car versus getting a Honda Civic. But I mean, I sold my 10-year-old Honda Accord 10 years ago for $5,000, and now a car like that would probably sell for $11,000 or $12,000 on the open market.
And I've heard that from friends that have been successful. You mentioned the Honda Fit. I have a friend that bought a Honda Fit that was already driven into the ground. They drove it for a few years, sold it for a profit. And I mean, that kind of action on the used car market, it's astounding what we're seeing on that end. So yeah, let's get back to the strategies here. How do I save a buck?
How do you save a buck? Well, the best way to save a buck is to get in touch with Autos Consultants and figure out what the best car is for your needs and take a look at the market. And one thing that I talk to a lot of people about is strategizing over what our payment plan is going to be. So I'll give you an example of the Toyota BZ4X, which is their first fully electric vehicle that's for sale in North America. Mm-hmm. So that car, if you want to lease or finance it, has a very high interest rate from Toyota. But that car has a sister model from Subaru, which is the exact same car, and the rates are about 5% lower. So it's really about just knowing what you're looking for in the market, what's going to satisfy your needs in terms of features, and figuring out which manufacturers are offering the best incentive right now to get you in the door if you're looking on the new car side.
Ben, that is so interesting because the Toyota word salad, the letter salad, I should say, BZ4XYZ, whatever it's called, and the Solterra, it's the exact same car and the interest rates, huge difference. That's incredible.
The other weird thing is all the Subaru financing from a dealership is actually backed by Toyota financing. So the fact that it's the same car with the same finance company, but Subaru Canada is subventing the rate, which means the manufacturer is behind the scenes paying down the interest rates so that they can pass that on to the consumers so they have a lower monthly payment. It's something to take advantage of for sure, and it's something to consider, whereas maybe you wouldn't have thought of them as being the same car. They are. They're sharing everything. Is
there relief in sight, Ben? Like, are things going to get better on this front to buy a car? Is there light at the end of the tunnel here for new car prices?
It seems like the market has tolerated the price increases. So the last time I came on here, we talked about Tesla lowering their prices. They're the only manufacturer that's lowered their prices over the last couple of years. And that's put the other car manufacturers that are trying to get into the electric game on notice. And as a result, we're seeing what the industry calls decontented cars coming out. So instead of it having all the features, they're going to remove some of the features so that they can have the car slot in at a lower price point, hopefully qualify for some of the EV incentives. And that'll make the overall purchase a little bit cheaper for the average consumer.
Always a pleasure talking to you, Ben. Thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Elias.
That's Benjamin Wenger, a senior performance manager with Dealer Inspire and the co-founder of Autos Consultants.